Greetings, this is PJ. I'm here in my office. It is Tuesday, April 8th, getting ready to go into finance and counsel here in a little bit, but wanted to take a moment and reflect and give the scripture and the sermon that I preached on Sunday, April 6th, 2025, which was the fifth Sunday in Lent. Our gospel lesson was John 12, 1 through 8. I'll be reading it out of the New Revised Standard Version, the updated edition. The heading would say, Mary anoints Jesus. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the home of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those reclining with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume, made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with the fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, "Why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor?" He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept a common purse and used to steal what was put in it. Jesus said, "Leave her alone. She brought it so that she might keep it for the day of my burial. You always will have the poor, but you do not always have me." The word of the Lord. Mary did not say a word. Mary taught us a great lesson through her actions. Mary's action modeled a way of life that Jesus carried out with the washing of his disciples' feet at the Last Supper. In our story, there really are 5 characters that are in play. Martha and Mary and Lazarus are in their home. Jesus and the disciples are there as well, but we only hear from Judas being our 5th character. I truly believe that we as a church could put a spotlight on any one of these 5 characters and craft a sermon or a teaching moment simply on them. All 3 of the siblings have been transformed by Jesus. Each and every one of them have become faithful disciples. Today, each of them is manifesting that discipleship in a different manner. They are hosting a meal for them. Today, our readings began in the first verse of the chapter 12. We know the time frame. It is 6 days before Passover. By now, I think that you as a congregation know that I love to expand the text to give us a fuller context. If we take a look at the end of chapter 11, we gain this insight. The Jewish Passover was coming up. Crowds of people were making their way up from the country up into Jerusalem to get themselves ready for the feast. They were curious about Jesus. There was a lot of talk of him among the standing around the temple. "What do you think? You think he'll show up at the feast or not?" Meanwhile, the high priest and the Pharisees gave out the word that anyone who knew his whereabouts should inform them. They were all set to arrest him. Bethany was a short 2-mile walk from Jerusalem. I believe that Jesus and the disciples head to Martha, Mary, and Lazarus' house because they knew it would be a safe place, and they would not turn Jesus in. Back to each of the siblings living out their discipleship. On Wednesday, the confirmation students took a look at the 7 faith practices that the ELCA lives out. Our faith practices are in the gathering space and on our banner, and our youth have painted them on the wall in the fellowship hall during our lock-in. They are the following: worship, invite, serve, encourage, give, pray, and study. I don't believe that this is a stretch. Maybe we can see it in the following light. Martha was serving. Lazarus was studying, and Mary was giving. I think that Mary's giving has always been the focus of this text. We can sit back and be in awe of her action. We can also see her giving as scandalous. The amount that she gave away and the manner in which she did. Ladies, they just did not put their hair down and show a display of love to a man that was not her husband. In my readings this week regarding Mary's gift, I love the choice of words that the one author in particular used. Mary pours out a year's salary onto the feet of Jesus. This extravagant gift causes Judas to speak up. In return, Jesus immediately speaks to Judas. His first 3 words were so simple, yet so profound. Leave her alone. Jesus stood up for her. Unfortunately, that does not happen many times. When individuals hear one human putting down another human, oftentimes the other human remains silent and doesn't speak up. On Wednesday, during our Lenten service, I shared the following from Brian Stevenson. Somebody has to stand up when other people are sitting. Somebody has to speak when other people are quiet. I reached out to a female colleague friend of mine and asked her if I could share some of her story in my sermon today, and she gave me her blessing. Thus, I want to share with you what happened to her 3 years ago at a Synod event for pastors that was focused on renewing the church. As she tells the story, I attended a Synod day of renewal for pastors. An older white guy who was a pastor decided that it was the right time to stand up and go on a tirade about how the church is in turmoil because women are in ministry. And because women are in ministry in the ELCA, it's our job to birth a new church. My colleague shared that she was sitting there in absolute shock. She said after a few seconds, I began to look around the room, and all of my female colleagues had a look of dismay in their eyes and on their faces. She then remembered a female colleague at the table asking if what I heard him say was actually what he said. Everybody nodded yes. They sat there and they waited. The room remained silent. The women were hoping and praying, but not a single male colleague stood up and spoke directly to the man who made those audacious statements. After a while, the silence was broken by a female colleague. Then my friend stood up and called him out. There really was no other response, especially from the male colleagues in the Synod. No one had her back. She felt betrayed. She wished that there was somebody in the room who took the stand that Jesus did for Mary. Not too long after the event, my friend packed her bags and left the church and the Synod and found a home in a church and a Synod that would love and respect her. She is now in a place where individuals are not afraid to stand up and use their voice against lies that are spewed. She is now in a place that has her back, and she is flourishing. I cannot believe that we are on the heels of Palm Sunday and Holy Week. There is space in this text that allows us to see Mary's extravagance in light of Jesus entering into the city. Jesus has now been anointed. This anointment is vastly different, though. Jesus had his feet anointed, not his head. Jesus is anointed by a woman, not a priest. After Jesus rose Lazarus from the dead, and they were having a meal at the siblings' actions, there are 3 things that are happening. 1, individuals are beginning to believe. 2, individuals are flocking to Jesus. And 3, individuals are plotting to kill Lazarus and Jesus. As I close this sermon, I want you to look at Mary. She is a woman of faith. She can lead the way for us. How can we model our life after hers? Are we being extravagant in our giving to God? Are we willing to be involved in ministry acts that will be criticized? Mary's devotion to Jesus was obvious. The contrast between Mary and Judas was a night and day experience. As we depart from this holy space, may we live into Mary and be lavish in love. And may we be cautious that we are not like Judas, who was critical and stingy. Amen.